Chapter 1: The Mysterious Village. I used to be a photographer in a simple village, a place far away from the bustling cities and their chaos. This village, however, was like no other. It was the purest and, at the same time, the most horrifying place I had ever encountered. Nestled deep within a dense, ancient forest, this mysterious village was isolated from the outside world. Few outsiders ever ventured here, and those who did often left with unsettling stories to tell. My curiosity got the best of me. And one day, I decided to explore this enigmatic place, camera in hand. As I approached the village, a dense fog hung in the air, making it difficult to see more than a few feet ahead. The trees stood tall and gnarled, casting eerie shadows that seemed to dance in the mist. It felt as though the very air was thick with secrets. The village itself was a collection of centuries-old cottages, each with its own peculiar charm. The houses were covered in ivy, and the windows, if any, were shrouded in heavy curtains that did little to reveal what lay within. The only sound that broke the silence was the soft rustling of leaves and the occasional distant howl of a lone wolf. As I cautiously entered the village, I noticed that there were no people in sight. The atmosphere was heavy with an unspoken dread. I approached one of the cottages, its door creaking open as if inviting me in. Inside, I found a room filled with old photographs, each one depicting a different moment from the village's history. Chapter 2: The Haunting Past. The photographs told a haunting tale of the village's past. There were images of joyous celebrations, but they were few and far between. Most depicted solemn faces, as if the villagers carried the weight of a dark secret. One particular photograph caught my attention. It showed a group of villagers standing around a large, ancient tree, their expressions filled with sorrow. The tree was unlike any I had ever seen, its branches twisted and contorted into grotesque shapes. It was said to be the heart of the village, a source of both its prosperity and its curse. I continued to explore the cottage, finding journals filled with cryptic writings and sketches of strange symbols. The more I learned, the more I became entangled in the village's mystery. The villagers had made a pact with something ancient and sinister, and it seemed that the consequences of that pact still haunted the village to this day. As night began to fall, I decided to find a place to rest and continue my investigation in the morning. I chose a cottage that appeared to be abandoned, its wooden door barely hanging on its hinges. Inside, I set up my sleeping bag and huddled beneath a thick blanket, listening to the whispers of the wind and the distant cries of the forest creatures. Sleep did not come easily that night. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that the village itself was alive with a presence I could not comprehend. The mystery of the village was becoming more terrifying with each passing moment, and I knew that, I had only scratched the surface of its dark secrets. Chapter 3: The Unearthly Encounter. The night in the mysterious village was restless, filled with strange dreams that felt like echoes of the past. As dawn broke, I gathered my courage and continued my exploration. In the pale morning light, I ventured deeper into the village, my camera always at the ready. The atmosphere remained heavy, and the fog clung to the ground, creating an eerie shroud. As I walked, I heard faint whispers in the wind, like the murmurs of long-forgotten spirits. I reached the village square, and there, under the twisted branches of the ancient tree, I saw something that froze me in my tracks. A figure, pale and ghostly, stood at the center of the square. Its eyes were pools of darkness, and it seemed to be reaching out to me, beckoning me closer. Fear coursed through my veins, but curiosity compelled me to approach. As I drew nearer, the figure began to speak, its voice a haunting echo of the past. It revealed itself to be a spirit of the village, bound to the curse that had plagued this place for generations. The spirit told me of the village's tragic history, of the pact made with a malevolent force to ensure prosperity. But with each passing generation, the village had paid a terrible price. It was trapped in a never-ending cycle of suffering, and the spirit implored me to help break the curse. Chapter 4: The Quest for Answers. The spirit's words weighed heavily on me. I knew I couldn't ignore the villagers' plight any longer. Determined to uncover the truth and find a way to free the villagers from their curse, I embarked on a quest for answers. My first stop was the village's old library, a weathered building hidden among the cottages. Inside, dusty books and crumbling scrolls held the secrets of the past. I spent hours poring over ancient texts, trying to decipher the symbols and incantations that bound the village to its dark fate. As I dug deeper into the village's history, I discovered tales of brave individuals who had tried to break the curse before, but none had succeeded. They all had stories of despair and tragic endings, warning me of the dangers that lay ahead. Armed with this knowledge, I began to search for clues that might lead me to a solution. The village's mystical artifacts and hidden chambers became my focus, and I started to unravel the mysteries that had plagued the villagers for centuries. With each discovery, the pieces of the puzzle slowly fell into place, revealing a path towards breaking the curse. But danger lurked around every corner, and I knew that the malevolent force that bound the village would not give up its hold easily. Determined and with a sense of purpose, I continued my quest, hoping to bring an end to the horrors of the mysterious village and free its inhabitants from their eternal torment. Chapter 5: Confronting the Malevolent Force. Armed with newfound knowledge and a growing determination, I delved deeper into the heart of the village's mysteries. It was clear that the malevolent force that held the village in its grip resided in the ancient tree at the center of the square. I returned to the square, the twisted branches of the tree looming overhead like grotesque claws. As I approached, I felt the oppressive weight of the curse bearing down on me. The whispers in the wind grew louder, and the shadows danced with malicious intent. With a trembling hand, I reached out to touch the tree, and suddenly, a surge of energy coursed through me. The malevolent force, sensing my intent to break the curse, fought back with all its might. I could feel its anger and desperation, but I was determined to free the village from its grasp. As I focused my energy, I began to chant the ancient incantation I had discovered in the village's library. The air crackled with power, and the tree itself seemed to come alive, its branches writhing and contorting in agony. I knew I was getting closer to breaking the curse, but the malevolent force fought back with a final, ferocious burst of energy. In that moment, I was engulfed in blinding light, and I felt myself being transported to another realm, a place where the malevolent force held dominion. I had entered a battle of wills, a showdown between my determination to save the village and the dark power that sought to keep it in its grip. The final confrontation. In this otherworldly realm, the malevolent force confronted me in a form that defied description. It was a swirling mass of darkness, a maleficent presence that sought to overwhelm me. But I remembered the stories of those who had come before me, and I drew strength from their tales of courage. With every ounce of my will, I continued to chant the incantation, pushing back against the malevolent force's onslaught. The battle raged on, with both sides locked in a fierce struggle for control. I could feel the weight of the village's suffering, the generations of pain and sorrow that had been inflicted upon its inhabitants. As I fought on, I began to see glimpses of the malevolent force's true nature. It was a creature born of fear and despair, a manifestation of the darkness that had haunted the village for centuries. It thrived on the villagers' suffering, feeding off their anguish and misery. With this newfound understanding, I redoubled my efforts. I channeled all my energy into the incantation, and the malevolent force began to weaken. Its howls of anger turned into pitiful cries, and its form started to dissipate. Finally, with one last surge of determination, I banished the malevolent force from the realm, breaking the curse that had plagued the village for so long. As I returned to the village square, I saw the first rays of sunlight breaking through the fog, illuminating the once darkened village with a warm and gentle light. The curse was broken, and the village was free at last. The twisted branches of the ancient tree began to straighten and transform into a thing of beauty. The villagers, who had been trapped in their suffering, emerged from their homes, their faces filled with hope and gratitude. My journey in the mysterious village had come to an end, and I had brought about a new beginning for its inhabitants. As I prepared to leave, I couldn't help but smile.